Arena! Hey, Chris in the house with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today guys we are going to introduce you the new mythical champion that is a reward of the Green Forest. Yes, like Cintranos has Carnage as a reward, like we have Lamassu on the Siege as a reward, we are also going to have a new mythical champion called Anaxia as a reward of the content of the Green Forest. When you have enough points, whatever it be, we're going to be able to summon him probably. And it is this champion right here. This is the visual of the base form, which it is reminds me a little bit of Kurosa base form. You know, a weapon and a shield with a slim form. A decent visual, but not amazing. And this is the visual of the alternate form. In my opinion, this is a way better design. This is the form that is probably based on damage. You're gonna take a look at the kit. But as has more offensive looks, I think it is more based on damage. Probably this is a nuker form and the other one is a like support form or tanky form. We're gonna take a look at the kit of the champion to see if it is a good or a bad champion, or if at least we can have a perspective where we can use him. Let's go straight to it, because this is the most important thing, to read the skills of the champion to see how good he can be, or at least have a notion where we gonna use him. Let's go. So this is Anaxia the Reborn base form. The one that I said that looked like a tank, and probably it is a tank. It is a mythical champion from the Lizardman faction that is going to be the reward of the Green Forest. It is defense based on the first form, which is a bit interesting because in my opinion, it should had, let us start for the aura, it should had HP based aura. Because this form is defense, but the other form, the offensive form, and the effects of the skills that we're going to see here looks like he works more around the HP than he works around the defense. So even being a defense-based champion, if HP is what we want, an HP area would be a lot better. Let's take a look at the kit. A1, Thirsting Sword. Attack one enemy, heals all allies by 5% of their max HP. Okay, heals all allies by an addition of 5% of their max HP if the champion attacks a target under leech debuff. Okay, so A1, that is a healing skill, AoE. Interesting, but not crazy. Nothing that I would say, okay, it's amazing. Unless this heal is crazy, but even if it is a crazy heal, it is not something amazing. Okay, it's just a normal effect. A2, Death Plunge. Attack all enemies. Heal all allies by 50% of the champion max HP. The value of the heal increased by 5% for each leech debuff on the enemy team. If a champion receives any surplus heal, places a shield buff on the champion for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to the amount of surplus heal received, up to 30% of the champion's max HP. Okay, so the A1 and the A2 are skills that heals you and gives you some shield, but both have a conditional around leech, which is interesting at the same time bad to have a conditional. Okay, so diminishes the time that this is going to be fully effective. So until now, nothing amazing. Nothing amazing. Doesn't look a crazy mythical kit. Let's see day 3. All-consuming Raw. Okay. 3 turns cooldown. Attack all enemies, places leech debuff for 2 turns and a provoke debuff for 1 turn on all enemies. Also places a counterattack buff on the champion for 2 turns. Okay, 1 turn provoke, 2 turns leech, and counterattack. Very normal skill, we have that in a lot of champions, to be fair. It should be 2 turns provoke to be good. To a mythical should be 2 turns provoke, it would be more useful. and would look like more like a mythical kit. Don't you guys agree? A mythical deserves a 2 turns instead of a 1 turn. 1 turn is too common. A4 polymorph, transform this champion into the alternate form, then grants the next turn. Normal skill that most of the mythicals have. And the passive, Battle Reverie. Each time this champion hits an enemy under a leech debuff, increase this champion defense and HP by 5%, stacks up to 50%. Okay, this is interesting. So the first 10 hits on leech, on champions affected by leech, and say hits, not attacks. So if he uses an AoE and affect like 4 champions with leech, it is 20% more defense, 20% more HP. Interesting. Okay, and we're gonna need to see if the hits counts, only skill hits. Because if passives and blessings and things like that counts too, maybe you can get the full amount of HP from a single strike. Which is cool, 50% more HP and defense, it's huge amount. If this champion has a crazy base HP and a crazy base defense, and since it's a mythical, it would be not something unbelievable to happen. We can have an amazing amount of HP on that champion. And there is more. When attacked by enemies whose attack is higher than or equal to their defenses, has 100% of chance to place a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. When attacked by enemies whose defense is higher than their attacks, has a 100% of chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns instead. When attacked by enemies under leech debuff, has a 50% of chance of placing provoke debuff for 1 turn. Okay, so he doesn't have a 2 turns provoke, but he has a passive way of dealing provoke. Okay, interesting. The passive is interesting. I like it more, the first part of it, because it's a progression. You get more defense, more HP, but the second part is also useful to put decreased attack on nukers and to put decreased defense on support or defense-based nukers. It's interesting, and if they have leech, to renew the provoke every time they hit you, it is something interesting. So this looks like a tank with some healing mechanics, which in general is not good. It's not a kit that I would say is amazing, or it is a kit that looks like a mythical champion. If this passive does not bring insane amount of HP or insane amount of defense, nothing that surprises me or makes me want the champion. Okay, so the first form for me at the first sight is underwhelming. You know, deserves a little bit more. Unless we're talking about crazy amount of multiplier here, like the biggest multiplier in the game for these offensive skills here, the Death Plunge or the all-consuming Roar, because they're 3 turns cooldown. Like, that would be amazing. But we would have something not that good, because he's a champion that plays a lot of around HP. And his second form is HP based. So it would be better if the multipliers were crazy on the second form. The one that we're going to take a look right now. This is Anaxia the Reborn alternate form, which looks like a lot more interesting. And it is a nuker form, HP based. Let's see what he's capable of. A1 Bladey Axle. Attack one enemy, places block buffs, debuff for 2 turns. These debuff cannot be resisted if the target's HP is lower than the champion's HP. Okay, so we have a HP based champion. On his first form, every time he hits someone under leech, he gets more HP, up to 50%. And on his second form, he's able to take advantage of the higher amount of HP compared to the enemy's HP. It's a good mechanic, but it's a mechanic that needs a lot of turns to be effective. So, if something takes a lot of turns to be loaded, it is not a PvP mechanic. It's usually a PvE mechanic. So, at first sight, you have a all-around PvE kit. But that makes no sense with the A2. Take a look. Frenzied Execution, 3 turns cooldown when fully booked. Attack one enemy will ignore stone skin buffs, which it is a buff that we only use on PvP most of the time. So we have no bosses that use stone skin, so no point into have a ignore stone skin buff if we going to use this champion mostly on PvE. So looks like they want to play this champion on PvP mode, but gave him a mechanic that needs so much time to load. He might not have this time on PvP. PvP battles are usually executions, disables, and you lose your turn, you don't make moves. Things like that. Long fights on PvP are not common. Okay, fights for you to have 4 turns, 10 turns. Like, not happens too often. Second part of the skill. The damage inflicted by this skill increases by 50% if the target's HP is lower than this champion. Resets the cooldown of this skill if the target's killed. Seems interesting. Ignoring stone skin and having multiplier under HP based champion. If this champion has a good multiplier on this kit, he can be used on PvP. I said he's a PvE champion. Yes, I said that many times. But if the multiplier is good, he can be a nuker from HP that you can use. Just because of the A2. Because ignoring stone skin is something amazing. Something that is rare, something that is deadly. And one-shotting someone, it is amazing. And as a HP nuker, he might survive to get another turn to use that skill again. So let's take a look at the other parts of the kit. Attack one enemy before attacking. Places 30% increased critical damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. Steals 50% of the target's stun meter. Steals 100% of the target's stun meter if the target's HP is lower than the champion HP. Destroys the target's HP by 25%. Destroys half of the target's HP if the target's HP is lower than the champion. So he takes a lot of advantage of having a higher HP than the enemy, which is really interesting. Okay. But single targets. Where's the AoEs? Rage Nexus will ignore 50% of a target's defense if the target's HP is lower than the champion's. Okay, this is good. He has a passive ignore defense, which it is amazing. He needs a lot of HP to proc it, but if he gets more HP with the first form, maybe we can make that happen. We will also ignore 50% of the target's defense if the target is under leech. Oh, so he's able to ignore 30% of the enemy's defense if they have lower max HP and they are under leech. Interesting, but very hard to fulfill both conditions. Maybe the first one, the second one most of the time. If you beat him as a nuker, he's not going to have the means to put the leech most of the time. So we're just going to effectively use the first form if we're talking about PvP. If we're talking about PvE, okay, he will be able to use both. Every third skill this champion uses will attack all enemies. Okay, now this explains how he does not have any AoE on the kit on the second form. Because passively he will have everything on his kit as AoE. Okay, that now becomes a really interesting thing. Because he might be one of the few champions to have an AoE ignore stone skin skill. How? If we go to the first form, we use a skill. Then he survives. Okay? Then we transform, second skill. So when we use another skill, it will proc the passive, the Rage Nexus. So the first time we use the A2 here, we can have an AoE ignore stone skin. That combo make a champion become a meta if it is effective. So if the multiplier is good, and if his passive on the second form counts the turns, the skills that he used on the first form, we now have a viable champion for PvP and PvE at the same time. Okay, now you see the smile on my face, because now I see a usage of this champion. Now I can see the champion being used. And we can have a very, very distorted build on him. Like, talking about 2-turn Stone Skin, you know? For having the first form to use a skill and deliver leech and something and provoke and people attack him and he stay alive. He loads the passive, he transforms. He has a lot of HP because of the hits that he delivers, and he's able to use a AoE ignore Stone Skin, which it is good. Everything depends on the multiplier. If his multiplier sucks, everything will suck. He only will have usage on PvE, and not crazy amount of usage, just standard champion. But if the multiplier is good, maybe he becomes a PvP godlike champion. And there's a little bit more on the passive. This champion joins every third attacking skill used by allies. This champion will use their default skill when joining that skill. Good. Passive ally attack, which it is good. And if he's able to proc the passive of the AoE using the ally attacks, it will be interesting, but it will make harder for us to have the counting of when it's going to be AoE if that happens. So we're gonna need to test. This is a champion that needs test, because if it's going to be useful or not depends on many things. Because at first sight, the kit is not amazing, but has potential. Has potential because of the A2 of the second form, and because of the passives of both forms. So these are the skills that are worth on this champion's kit. The passive of the first form, the A2 of the second form, and the passive of the second form. If we have good performance on these three, we might be able to make this champion works. And he's going to be a valuable asset to our teams. HP nuker is also always interesting, because he has a lot more survivability than normal nukers. Okay, and he does not need someone to buff attack or to buff increase defense on him to be able to deliver damage. So, overall, not amazing kit at first sight, because depends on many conditions to work, many turns. But if we can extract a good strategy around him, it can be useful. First, ignore Stone Skin AoE skill. That would be a first of his kind. And if this is an insane amount of damage, even more because he has ignore defense mechanics, viable nuker. Immediately viable nuker. Now I want to test this champion even more, because I'm intrigued if this champion is going to be useful or not. Because if the multiplier sucks, the entire champion will suck. Because nothing is too useful to add him to any team, you know? Just healing or just doing mediocre amount of damage. It brings him to a Vault champion, and we don't want another mythical Vault champion. We already have 5 of them or more. So we want champions that we can use even more if we're able to get him as a reward of a content. Okay, so that's Anaxia. Okay, that's Anaxia. He's going to be a reward of the Green Forest. If the champion have a good multiplier, this is going to be a good champion. If not, it is going to be a deception. So we present the kit, but I cannot tell if the champion is going to be good or not just reading the skills, because at first sight does not look a good champion. But if the multiplier is good and we can extract a good strategy around this ignore Stone Skin, it can be a meta champion because of that. So it's everything about how these mechanics are going to work, if the passive is going to count both forms or not going to count both forms, to see the utility of the champion. I hope he has an insane multiplier, for us to be able to make a very powerful nuker out of him. Anaxia the Reborn. We are waiting to test you on the test server to see if it is going to be a champion that everybody's going to chase or nothing. That's Christian bringing the news. If you enjoyed this kind of content, do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. And one more thing to remember is everything about the multiplier and
It's all about arena.